of the criminal justice system has changed. It is no longer primarily concerned with the prevention and punishment of crime, but rather the management and the control of the dispossessed. By show of hands, how many people has had a family member or friend past or currently incarcerated? This has become a problem in America, the mass incarceration. Between 1980 and 2015, the number of prisoners incarcerated went from 500,000 to over 2.2 million. The U.S. takes up 5% of the world's population, but 21% of the world's prisons. Because of that, mass incarceration has become a problem, but it's more of a problem for minority races in America. If minorities were jailed at the equal rate of their white counterparts, the prison population would decrease by 40%. Minority incarceration is similar to the old Jim Crow laws. In this speech, I'm going to talk about how the Jim Crow laws and the mass incarceration of minorities are similar to this day, and what we could do to solve the problem of minority mass incarceration in America. The Jim Crow laws. The Jim Crow laws were made and put in effect after the 13th Amendment was passed that freed slaves. The Jim Crow laws were local and state laws that legalized segregation. With segregation, many African Americans were not able to vote. Many African Americans were not able to work at certain establishments, and many African Americans were sentenced to crazy sentences by the judges. Reason being, a lot of ex-Confederate soldiers after the Civil War became officers and judges. Once the Jim Crow laws were passed, African Americans were sentenced to longer terms so they can work in the chain gang or in the labor camps, which was another form of legalizing slavery. The Jim Crow laws were put in effect to keep African Americans and other minorities in a state of servitude, keeping us beneath the majority race. How the Jim Crow laws and the mass incarceration today, how are they similar? One, African Americans today are serving 20% longer sentences than whites in America. That's a very high statistic for a land of the free and the equal. One of the main things that contribute to this is the discretion of judges and district attorneys. Judges have the discretion based on their expertise to sentence you to what they feel is the best sentence for that offender. And subconsciously, that is contributing to why African Americans are being sentenced to longer sentences for the same crime. Also, penal labor. We are military. Have you ever bought a pair of PTs and looked at the stamp and seen who manufactured your Army fitness uniforms? They're made by prisoners in prison who working for cents an hour. The DOD is a big contractor for the prison labor. Also, just recently, California had one of the worst wildfires in history. Prison inmates was putting out those fires, risking their lives for $1 an hour. This is an alarming truth, and it just shows how flawed the criminal justice system is. Also, same as the Jim Crow, once you are a convicted felon or a convicted offender, your voting rights are delayed. So once you go to jail, now upon release, you must wait till after your supervised release, meaning your probation, your parole, you must wait to the end of that. And usually most states regulated that you must wait 2 years after that to finally get your time and your right to vote back. Voting should be an equal right for all citizens in America. So due to minorities already having a low population in the world, in the U.S. society, half of that, a great percent of that, are not even eligible to vote. So now, your elected officials are not voted for by minorities. It's the majority. So, if the mass incarceration will eliminate certain people in the world from getting jobs, if it eliminates certain people in the world from voting, and instead exposes them to slavery type labor for cents an hour, what is the real difference between the mass incarceration of minorities today and the Jim Crow laws of the mid-1900s? I say it's none. So, how can we fix it? Well, besides black people in prison making up 32% of the prison population, and we don't even take up 20% of the U.S. population. It's a startling statistic. And they can start by eliminating prison for lower level terms, lower level offenses, such as people going to jail for nonviolent crimes, such as drug-related crimes, and serving hefty sentences for nonviolent things. You give those people probation and parole. But also, one of the things we need to limit to solve this problem is the discretion of the judges. We need to make stricter guidelines that judges need to follow when sentencing offenders in the court of law. Also, we need to limit the time that an offender has to be on probation and parole, such as a lot of people know the rapper Meek Mill. For a gun and drug case, he served over 1.5 years in prison and was sentenced to over 7 years of probation. Being on probation now landed him back in jail for the second time, because a minor violation is a violation of your probation or a violation of your parole, which sends you back, which doesn't help the mass incarceration, it just adds to the numbers. And also, we must change the sentencing laws. People shouldn't be in jail 3 strikes, you're out. People shouldn't be serving life for 3 minor offenses, 3 misdemeanors, non-violent offenses. We need to change those laws and start giving people in the world a better chance to succeed. I know that the Jim Crow laws of that time was deemed legally unethical, yet the justice system today is deemed to not be flawed. I feel right now the best thing that we can do is to spread awareness that we know what's going on in the justice system today. And hopefully one of us will be in position one day to actually make change. At the end of this, I hope you understand the similarities of the Jim Crow laws and mass incarceration of minorities today. And I hope that one day you'll tell somebody else and tell somebody else and spread awareness. Thank you. How long?